Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I have two different lessons. I'm going to teach them all in one go, and I will tell you where to pause the video or where to just continue the video. So what I'm teaching about to start is reflection. So grab that first page of your worksheet and we are going to go over what a reflection is and how we can actually draw reflections. So if you look at the start of your note, reflections are everywhere, in mirrors, glass, and in the picture here. So what do you notice about these pictures? I'll give you a second to think about it. Think about what you see and maybe where the arrows are as well in the image. So every point is the same distance from the central line, and the reflection has the same size as the original image. So think about if you look in the mirror. If you look in the mirror and you look at yourself, regardless of where you are always the same distance from the mirror compared to where you are standing, and you're always the same size as what you see in the mirror regardless of where you're standing. So that is more of a practical view of a reflection in terms of one that we can see in real life. So the central line when we're looking at our reflections is called the mirror line. So as we can see in the picture of the dog, the question is, can a mirror line be vertical? Well, it can. So here we see that the dog, Flame, can show where the vertical mirror line is. So if we were to draw that mirror line right down the middle, we would see that Flame is the same on both sides. So that is where our mirror line is vertical. So mirror lines can actually be any direction. You could have vertical, you could have horizontal, you could have one on a diagonal. You could really have any kind of mirror line, and that's kind of one of the cool things about reflections. They could be anywhere. Okay, so now that we've gone over the first page, we are going to go to the second page and actually learn how to do reflections yourself. So this is a step-by-step approach to drawing your reflection. So first, as we can see, we have a picture of a triangle with a central line or that mirror line right in the middle. So what we want to do is measure how far each point on our triangle is from that central line. So we are going to measure how far that is, and then we are actually going to continue the line for the same length on the other side, and we put a point there. And we do the same for this one, so we would draw the same length that this line is on the other side of our mirror line and plot our point there. So that's what is actually going on in our second picture. They've measured how far it is from this point to the mirror line, and then they've measured that same length on the other side of the mirror line and drawn a point. So as you can see, once they finish, they actually have a perfect reflection that they have done. So in terms of actually labeling your triangle, or any shape for that matter, usually each point gets a letter. So point 1 could be A, and then B, and then C, as you can see in this triangle here. Now when we reflect it, this is where we get to add something. So we add a little dash, it's called a prime. So that's to mark the corner of the reflected image compared to our original image. So for example, A on this side would become A prime on the reflected side. B on this side, B prime on the reflected side. And C on this side becomes C prime on the reflected side. So we get to add prime when we reflect an image, which is kind of fun. So I want you to do this and just kind of learn what this means. I want you to practice remembering it, read it over 3 times, and then when you've read it over, you understand it, I want you to unpause the video after this, and I'm going to teach you some tricks. So pause the video here, and then unpause it once you've read this 3 times. Now that you've read that first side of the page, you understand it, you know how to do a reflection, you feel confident with it, I'm going to teach you some tricks that help make reflections a little more clear, a little easier to understand. So if we have a line or a mirror line going in the x-axis direction, so that would be a horizontal line, you are going to change each x and y point into x and negative y. So your x always stays positive in this case when we are looking at a point that is positive, but our y is the one that changes from a positive to a negative. So keep that in mind. If you have something that's being reflected over the x-axis, your points that are positive up here will stay positive on the x side, but they're going to be on the negative side now because they're on the negative side of that mirror line, so they'll become negative. Now in terms of if we're looking at a y-axis, which is our vertical axis, so when we change x and y on the positive side, they become negative x and y. So if this is our positive x and y, and we reflect it over to the other side, y is still the same because we haven't moved up or down any more than we already had. Our y stays the same, but it's our x's that are changing. So we're going from positive to negative. Now, if all else fails and you are struggling, simply fold your paper over the mirror line, and then you'll be able to draw the image on one side that you see on the other side. But try and remember that if you're dealing with the x-axis, your x and y change into x and negative y, or it could be x and negative y changing to x and y. It works both ways. Same with the y-axis. If you change the x and y, it changes into negative x and y when you reflect it, or negative x and y become x and y. It works both ways, no matter which way you're reflecting. So now that we've gone over the note, I'm going to give you some time to go over the worksheets. I will explain what each one is. So on our first one here, what you're doing is we have an image on one side of our mirror line. You are going to just draw it on the other side. You are going to do a reflection in order to get that image on the other side. And so you should have a complete image by the time you are done all of your reflections. Now, on the other side, we are actually going to use what we learned in the note, and you are going to take the points on one side of the mirror line and transfer those over onto the other side of the mirror line. And remember, keep it at the same distance from the line as it is on the other side of the image. And as you can see here, our mirror lines are not always vertical or horizontal. As you can see, we have some that are diagonal, some that aren't right through the middle. We've got them everywhere, but don't let that intimidate you. It's still a mirror line. If it does help just to kind of prompt you at first, turn your paper so that it's horizontal or vertical, and maybe that'll make a difference if you're struggling a little bit at first. So pause the video here. When you're done those worksheets, I will go into the second note, which is on Cartesian coordinates. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed working on those mirror images. And now we are going to go into Cartesian coordinates. So using Cartesian coordinates, we mark a point on a graph by how far along and how far up it is. So, for example, as your note says, the point 12 and 5. So it's 12 units along our graph and 5 units up. So in terms of our x and y axis, the left-right direction is commonly called x, and the up-down or vertical direction is commonly called y. So remember, as I mentioned in reflections, this is going to be the horizontal direction or the x-axis, and this is the vertical axis or the y-axis. So horizontal, vertical, x-axis, y-axis. So keep that in mind. That is very important and will be important for the rest of the time you are doing math, whether you're in grade 4, grade 7, grade 8, high school, university, wherever you are. You need to remember this is horizontal and the x-axis, this is vertical in the y-axis. So, axis, it's the reference line from which distances are measured. The plural of axis is axes and is pronounced axes. So let's look at our example at the bottom of that first page. So the point 6 and 4. So it's going to be 6 units across and 4 units up, as we can see in the graph here. So we've gone 6 units across. So this is our x direction, and then we've gone 4 units up on the y-axis. So that's how we get to our point 6 and 4. So, as you can remember which axis is which by one thing that helps is if you remember that x, when we do it, is a cross. So it looks like a cross. It's commonly used if we're talking about cross-country running. Sometimes things just say X country because it's another way of saying cross. So X is across and X is across the page. So maybe that'll help you to remember where the x-axis is compared to the y. So let's flip over your page, and now we are going to talk about direction. So as x increases, the point moves further right. And as y increases, the point moves further up. Whereas if x is decreasing, the point moves farther to the left, and when y decreases, the point moves farther down. So you'll be able to see this as we did in our example on this page, where we were going 6 to the right, and we went 4 up, because our points are positive. So let's now look at how to write a coordinate. So we've talked about coordinates and what they mean, but how do we write them? So the x value, or that horizontal distance, is always going to be your first point that you write. And your y is the vertical. So your y and your vertical always comes second when you write your points. So it's always that x value first and then your y value. So this is often called an ordered pair, and usually the numbers are separated by a comma and parentheses are put around the whole thing, like this. So this is super important. You are always going to have to use this form where you do a bracket, a 3, or your x value for your point, a comma, the value of your y coordinate point, and then you're going to add a closing bracket. So that is how you write your ordered pair. So if we look at our examples, 3, 2 means that we have gone 3 units to the right and 2 units up, and 0, 5 means we've gone 0 units to the right and 5 units up. Always keep in mind that 0, 0 is called the origin. Now, we are going to move into the actual activities for this unit, and so the first thing we're going to get to is actually the worksheet, and then I have a bit of a game for you. So let's start with the worksheet. What you are going to do is you are going to write the ordered pair for each item. So for example, the first thing we want to look at is the pineapple. So we're going to find the pineapple on our grid. So as you can see, we have our y-axis labeled, we have our x-axis labeled, and we are looking for that pineapple. So if we find it, first we want to determine what the x is. So we can count. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we've gone 5 units to the right. So that means our x in our ordered pair is going to be 5. And then we've actually gone 2 units up. So that means that our y value in our ordered pair is going to be 2. So your first point for that pineapple is going to be bracket 5, 2, close bracket. So you are going to go through and do that for each of the different fruits and vegetables on your page. Now on the other side, they've actually given you the coordinate, and you have to read the graph and figure out where those points are. So let's go over the first one. So 2 and 2. So we have to remember the first number is our x value. So we want to go over 2. Now, the second value is also 2. So that means our y value is 2, so we have to go up 2. So we go 1, 2. So we are at 2 and 2 right here. So it's a tomato. So then we can just write tomato on that line. Now, once you have completely finished this, you are going to need a partner because you are going to play a game of Checkmate or Battleship, whichever one you have. So I said in my part 1 of the video that if you have Battleship, go ahead and play Battleship. If not, I'm going to explain how this one works. It's very similar. So this one's called Checkmate. So you are going to play with a parent, a sibling, or maybe you can FaceTime a friend and play this game with them. So you want to start by drawing 4 lines. One is going to be 5 units long, one is going to be 4 units long, one is going to be 3 units long, and the other one is 2 units long. So you're going to draw your 4 lines, and then once you've drawn those 4 lines, you are going to list out all the ordered pairs that happen along that line. So yes, your lines do have to fit onto the lines of the grid. So if you look at the bottom of your page, there's an example that I did for you. So let's look at that first line, and that is the 5 line. So the ordered pairs are 1 and 13, 2 and 13, 3 and 13, 4 and 13, and 5 and 13. So your grid does not have to have these same lines, but they do have to be set up in a similar manner where each of the lines you draw is on lines that are on the grid. Once you've drawn those, you've written out your ordered pairs, you are going to take turns with your partner saying different ordered pairs on the grid. And what you're trying to do is actually hit their lines. So say for example, you were playing me and you said 4, 5. I would go and look at my ordered pair list and see, or my lines, and see that I did actually have a point that was at 4 and 5. So I would say, yep, you got it, and then I would ask you an ordered pair, and then you would ask me. So you are trying to hit every single ordered pair on the other person's list, and they're trying to hit all of your ordered pairs on your list. And the first person who knocks out all 4 lines and hits all of them with the ordered pairs is the winner. And remember, your X always comes first when you're writing your ordered pairs or saying them, and your Y always comes second. So once you've played that game, you can play it a couple times, as many times as you want. Just print more copies of this page and you'll be all set to go. Now the last activity is actually drawing a floor plan of your house. So I want you to use this entire square to draw the rooms of your house, and only pick one floor. If you only have one floor, perfect. If you have 2 floors, pick your favorite floor. So you are going to draw your house layout on this grid. Now what you are going to do once you've drawn it is actually go around and look at different items in your house. So maybe the floor you chose has a kitchen in it. You'll go to your kitchen and kind of plot in the layout you've drawn where your stove would fit. And then you are going to write the coordinate of that item on the page. Now you are going to do that for 10 different items, and then you have completed all of the worksheets for the day. Or maybe you divided it into 2 days. So that is everything for the lesson. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you have a great day, and I hope you had a bit of fun with this. I know that Battleship is actually one of my favorite games. It's a lot of fun not knowing where the other person has placed their points. And so I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for checking this one out.